There are so many beautiful and peculiar experiences to have here in Sardinia that I want to share with you as much as I can to let you love and appreciate what this island can offer. As a first video from this beautiful island, I had to share the astonishing story of George, the knight-martyr that kills the dragon. Every year, on the 23rd of April, in a small city in the south of Sardinia, is represented this religious procession for the saint of the city, George. In our imagination, George, the knight-martyr, is the saint that kills the dragon, but his most ancient representation tells us a completely different story. As a symbol of evil and paganism, the dragon appears frequently in the story about medieval saints. The list of dragon slayer saints is definitely very long, like Theodore, Sylvester, Margaret and Martha. These are just the most famous ones. Nevertheless, none among all dragon slayers became object of the same popular veneration as Saint George did. That was chosen as a patron saint of England, Portugal and many other countries and cities. We just know about him that he was a Cappadocian soldier martyr under Diocletian, but we lack of any other historical element about his life. Therefore, old stories about him are the result of medieval additions that enriched the original patron during centuries. The traditional iconography of George is based on his most famous miracle, the killing of the dragon, as narrated in the Golden Legend by Jacobus de Voragine. The event is well known. Salem is besieged by an horrible monster, and to keep it away from the Libyan town, the citizens drew lots to decide whom among the youngest in town to sacrifice to the monster. As the daughter of the king has to be sacrificed, Saint George appears riding his horse, and he managed to neutralize the dragon. He then invites the princess to rope the dragon, now domesticated, to lead it into the town. Witnessing this prodigious event, the king and the whole population converted to Christianity, and at the end, the dragon was killed. In the Western culture, the iconography of this saint is based mainly on this episode, and his martyrs are seldom represented. The dragon becomes his characteristic feature. However, he has not always been represented according to this model. On the contrary, at the beginning of his cult, there was no dragon on his stories, not to mention his representations. The most ancient representation of Saint George dates back to the first half of the 10th century and can be found in Armenia, in the Church of the Holy Cross, built on the island of Akdamar. Here a bas-relief shows three saints riding a horse, and among them George can be identified, represented as a spear, not a dragon, but an anthropomorphous figure. The other two knights are Saint Sergius, killing a fierce animal, and Saint Theodore, who is definitely does fight against the dragon, the one in the left, and Sergius is the one in the middle. Actually, at that time, the dragon slaughter saint par excellence was Theodore of Amasia, a knight saint known from the 7th century for having defeated the monster. For this reason, in the early Middle Ages, dragons were associated only to the saints. In the successive centuries, artists will continue to represent Saint Theodore together with the dragon, but this iconography will become less and less common. Until the 11th century, no story was ever mentioned about the Saint George killing a dragon. He was venerated simply as a soldier martyr that converted infidel peoples. Right in this moment, the legend on the fact that George too faced a monster rose in the Eastern culture, maybe based on those varying illustrations. As a matter of fact, in frescoes and in bas-reliefs, the saint was always represented together with Theodore, who was fighting against his own dragon. For this closeness, artists ended up by associating both saints to the monster, up to the point that George was completely assimilated to the artistic theme of the dragon. In the meantime, around the image of Saint George killing the dragon, a whole story started to be developed. The more the saint was venerated, the more the story was enriched with details. The first texts related to the episode date back to the 11th century and include already all elements that we know. The lake monster, the princess saved from its jaws, the domestication of the dragon led to the tower, to the conversion of its citizen. The story of Saint George and the dragon was spreading all over the world, but it would have remained likely to eastern regions for a long time if crusades would not have taken place. Christians easily identified with the triumphant saint that had liberated the region from infidels. As patron saint of crusaders, no one was more appropriate than George. But the saint could have been so successful among pilgrim soldiers for another element. They saw in Byzantium a large painting showing a sovereign spearing dragon treading on it. This image was in front of the vestibule of the imperial palace and represented Emperor Constantine triumphant over the tyranny of the ungodly, the symbol of which was a dragon's snake. This image was very popular in ancient times, and it is possible that crusaders had seen a copy of it, later superimposed onto the symbol of the dragon slayer saint. In a very quick time, the cult of Saint George spread all over Europe as simultaneously did the representation of the knight killing the dragon. In England, the first image of this kind dates back to the beginning of 12th century, whereas in the eastern region the monster looked more like a snake. Its version brought by crusaders to the western lands grew in dimension and it acquired paws and wings, becoming the dragon we all know. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. And ciao, beautiful people!